Fuck HIPAA. My new patient was in the wrong place at the wrong time and now his life is ruined. On the morning of June 10, 1995, Detroit police responded to an emergency call placed by a security guard from a defunct warehouse. The caller reported multiple dead bodies and one survivor who would not speak. When law enforcement arrived, they immediately noticed that extremely loud music was playing. The volume was so significant that they were able to hear it from the street inside their patrol car. The officers identified the song as "The Safety Dance" by Men Without Hats, and noted that it played on a continuous loop during the entirety of their time on the scene. Upon entering the warehouse, officers quickly realized that the security guard had underplayed the severity of the situation. Within the warehouse were several dead bodies, each of them severely mutilated, at least 3 of which had been disarticulated, per the incident report. Based on the mutilation and the presence of what officers believed to be satanic imagery in the victim's clothing, style, and even tattoos, officers operated under the assumption that the murders were ritualistic and likely occult in nature. The officers located the only survivor, a visibly ill male approximately 18 to 22 years of age. The man kept his face covered with his hands. No matter what the officers said or did, the youth would not remove his hands from his face. The survivor was otherwise responsive. He rose to his feet when instructed, complied with a search when prompted, and followed commands and instructions as directed. When officers asked his name, however, all he did was laugh. In fact, when asked any question whatsoever, he laughed without answering. The sequence of events that followed this discovery remains murky at best. However, at some point the youth dipped into a bow. He then paused, as if waiting for a response. None came. He bowed a second time. Finally, one of the responding officers bent down, asking if the youth was feeling all right. In response, the youth laughed yet again. Then he straightened up and slid forward, leading with his right foot. He then again. Roughly 10 seconds later, he fatally attacked the officer. Due to the sheer ferocity of the attack, the youth fled the scene. The youth was taken into custody by AHH approximately 2 hours later. Agency personnel were already in the area due to inmate number 10 and were therefore uniquely prepared to identify, track, and capture a second anomaly. Upon being apprehended, however, the inmate immediately bowed to personnel. The agency now understand that this bow is the opening move in the entity's attack, which staff have dubbed the copycat game. At the time, however, staff had no way of knowing what was happening. Shortly after the inmate initiated his game, personnel nearly died. T-Class Agent Christoph W. managed to distract the entity until appropriate field restraints were devised and implemented on site. Shortly thereafter, both the inmate and inmate number 10 were taken into agency custody. Please note, this inmate must be fully restrained at all times. Even when restrained, the inmate constantly attempts to initiate his game. If initiation is successful, any personnel at the other end of the interaction are in critical danger. This danger stems largely from the complexity of the inmate's game. Rather than simple actions, the inmate presents complicated dance-like routines that are, bluntly, difficult or even impossible for participants to successfully mimic. Given that the consequence of unsuccessful mimicry is an exceedingly violent death, initiation of the copycat game must be avoided at all costs. It is important to note that the inmate suffers critically obsessive behavior regarding initiation of the copycat game. Nothing stops these attempts. Even while restrained in perfect darkness with no ability to move and no visual or auditory stimulation whatsoever, the entity constantly attempts to perform his opening move. This presents substantial ongoing danger to any and all staff who come into contact with him. The entity presents as a young male between the ages of approximately 17 to 23. He is 5 feet